everyone. Welcome to the Healing Room. I'm Angela Flores, and today we are having a conversation that's really important to me. Since it's Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, my husband Louis and I are going to talk about the things men carry that we don't always see: the stress, the pressure, the loneliness, and how all of that affects marriage, fatherhood, and healing. My hope is today's conversation brings understanding, encouragement, and reminds someone listening that they don't have to carry everything alone. So I just want to welcome my special guest, my husband, Louis Flores. So let's get started. So hey Louis, how you doing today? How's everything going?
Everything's been good. So far, so good. Thank you for having me on your podcast today.
So my first question for you today is, what does Men's Mental Health Awareness Month mean to you?
Well, growing up, to be honest, men, we we didn't really have mental health. We were always told, hold your emotions in, don't express yourself, because men, we were supposed to be this almighty, powerful beings, and not to expose yourself weakness. So when you talk about mental health, this is all new to the generation, to myself. I was always told to hold everything in.
Wow, that's really big of you to even say that, because a lot of researchers always talk about that. They talk about how men have to hold a lot of things in. They talk about the stigma of it all and the loneliness. So my second question for you is, what do you think, why do you think so many men struggle to ask for help when they're overwhelmed by their emotions and their stress and everything that affects their mental health today?
Well, I believe men are just scared for the answers they're gonna get from their questions, and because they don't know what to expect. It's just statistically, well, growing up statistically was, we were these uh one-sided people. You understand?
Yeah, so what you're basically trying to say is that when you were growing up, you felt like the overwhelming and the struggles were because other men taught you to kind of be silent and not really talk about your emotions.
Exactly. It was when you put the word emotions, it was always woman. Like women were emotional, women were this and that, not men. Definitely from I grew up in the '90s. It was you got to do this way, this. Your the
So
expectations were higher.
that's crazy that you're bringing that up, because that was my third question for you. What were you taught growing up about expressing your emotions? Like, what were you taught? You just said that you were born in the 90s. So, as being a younger boy, a little boy in the 90s, how did other men teach you how to express your emotions, or just society, period?
Well, like I said, growing up, you cried, you were a baby, you were this, you were that. So that was from a very young age. You couldn't show no any type of emotions. For me was a sign of weakness. That's why I was taught you can't express yourself, because if you express yourself, it was a sign of weakness. So I carried that throughout my whole life. So to answer that, it was hold it in. You feel some type of way. If it wasn't a certain way, you hold it in. You can express how you feel.
That's good to say, because a lot of my research on this, when I read my research, a lot of men were taught not to express their emotions because of this stigma of being a man that has to be strong and provide. And if you're a man that provides for your family and being strong, it causes you, I guess, to look weak if you're emotional during that situation. Do you agree of that, what you were taught?
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. It's still even some depending on who you talk to, who you meet, it's still out there. You know.
So now my fourth question for you is, what is something you wish people understood about men's mental health? Why is it so important? Because we always hear about the woman's view of women
Right.
and their mental health. But why is it so important that our viewers and the people that are listening need to know about men's mental health?
That, you know,
Oh,
for,
and how can they get help for their mental health? What is one of the
to,
biggest things?
to tell the women out there, if, if they have a father or a fatherly figure out there, just know that he is definitely going through something. As we say, everybody's going through their own demons, and men have a lot of demons inside of them that we're taught to hold. So I will tell them, definitely is, definitely seek help. It's not a sign of weakness. It's not you're a baby, you're a whiner, this and that. It's from talking from experience, and if any women are listening out there, to encourage their partner or any men in their family, it's never too late to get any type of help now.
And what do you think the type of help? What do you mean by the type of help? What kind of type of help? Because from when I'm doing my research about men's mental health, a lot of it is the stigma against men going to therapy. What do you think about therapy?
Absolutely. For experience is definitely help. And all men, I'm gonna tell you how it is. Men just need to talk, let it all out, and that's all they need to do. And from when you go into a professional field, that's all they really want to go is somebody to listen. And they don't need an answer; they just want to express themselves, and that would be, from experience, the best scenario to do. Just talk it out, and it would definitely help them. So any child, teen, anybody out there, go and seek the help. I encourage them to do that, even if they're definitely teenagers, because now that's statistically when everything starts happening. Now, I really encourage them to go see a therapist.
So this is where we get into the segment of our conversation about marriage. So we've been together most of our whole lives. Um,
Feels
we
like a
got married.
lifetime.
Yeah, we got married in 2011, and we've been together since.
2014, we got married.
Oh, we've been together since 2011, and
Right.
we got married.
Yeah, we've been married then.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the questions here that I have for marriage is, how do you think mental health has affected our relationship over the years, marriage and being together? Period. Like
Well,
the whole thing.
you know
The
better
whole
than
shebang.
you know better than anybody. I didn't I held everything in back then. And that's why I try to tell it affected, number one, it affected us really, because I didn't express myself how I should have to you, because you were my partner, and I should have said things or told you things that would bother me. But like I said, growing up with that, you're not supposed to do this, that, I held it from you to a lot. And I wish I could go back and change that, because it definitely would have helped our marriage a lot.
That makes a lot of sense now thinking back about everything and you answering that question for me makes a lot of sense. So I have another question. We're up to the question, what is something you carry throughout our marriage that I may not fully understand?
I fully, that you fully don't understand. To really think about it, it'd probably be my loneliness. You know, my loneliness made it easier to avoid, difficult conversations instead of just handling it at the moment, being involved in them. Sometimes it felt safer to pull away and just talk about what I was feeling. Even now, I think I still carry, some of those things. And I don't think you fully understand how much they have affected me.
Well, that makes a lot more sense for me understanding you as a man, and not only as a man, but as my friend and as my husband, that because of the dynamic of your mental health and the way you handled things or the way you were taught to handle things, Now I could see the way you probably felt alone in a lot of the situations that we were in our marriage or throughout our whole relationship in that time. Makes a lot of sense now, thinking about what research says about how men carry a lot of stuff in their marriages or even in their childhood that affects their marriages later on. What is the biggest lesson marriage has taught you right now going forward? Like, what is the lesson that it has taught you?
You know, marriage, marriage taught me that sometimes, it must sound crazy, but marriage taught me that sometimes it feels like you're walking through fire. Just when you think you see, the light at the end of the tunnel, another obstacle happens, it appears. But if you keep walking together, if me and you keep walking and we keep fighting together and do not give up on each other, you can make it through the fire, and then you reach the other side stronger together when you get there. Sounds weird, but that's the best way I could put it.
No, it's actually very profound and it's actually correct because a lot of things we've been through in our marriage, I know that in the beginning it was like struggling. We would have our ups and downs and it would seem like certain things would never end. But then when we worked on the problem together, we were able to accomplish more out of it as a whole than being separate from each other.
Right.
When was the most times you felt loved in our marriage that maybe helped with your mental health in the marriage? Like, when was the time you felt the most loved?
To be honest, when we went to our first trip to Miami last year.
That was an exciting trip. We had a good time.
Oh man, that was amazing. I say that because it was our first real vacation together after being together. We never went on a vacation together before the kids or even after the kids. So when we did that, it was just like, whoa. And for the first time, it felt like we could just focus on us.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree
spent,
with that
we
strongly.
spent time at the pool, we relaxed in the hotel. And, we went to Daniel's wedding and we experienced the sensory museum together. It was nothing but the trip. Was exhausting, but it felt peaceful and we made it through it.
Yeah, we did. Now, everything that you said about marriage makes a lot of sense when it comes to men's mental health, but we're going to get to this segment where we talk about you being a father, which you really hold proudly, which I think you're amazing at, and you're doing such a wonderful job.
Thank you.
And since Sunday's also Father's Day, this would be a good way of, just getting into who you are as a dad and just getting to know what your values are with mental health and fatherhood. How has becoming a father changed you mentally, emotionally, in every way possible, and made you change your mindset on how you deal with mental health as a father?
Before I became a father, better than anybody, I was struggling to find myself, finding a job, a career, this and that, and it was just like, I don't know, like I was pretty like a lazy person trying to figure out what to do, and when you got pregnant, it gave me a purpose. Like I had to, everything made sense. Everything made perfectly sense during, my pregnancy because I couldn't say no to a job. I remember my first job like it was yesterday. It was Family Dollar, and it was just like, all right, I gotta do this, if I like it or not, because I had to support you.
But how did it affect you mentally? Like, what was the biggest thing?
Like I didn't have a plan. I know it sounds weird, but I didn't have a plan. I worked when I went to work and chose jobs based, what I was feeling at the time. When they came into my life, our children, everything changed. They gave me a motivation, a reason, to push myself harder, to become a better man, father, son-in-law, it made me a better person.
Yeah, I could see that a lot because I remember when we first had Lewis, it was a little bit of a struggle mentally for you. And then not only that, when we had Lewis, you were only 22 years old, so it was a lot mentally for you. And I know that it was a big pressure, like we talked about, the stigma of the pressure for men to always achieve and protect, and then and to provide.
It opened up a lot of old school mental challenges I was growing up with that I realized I didn't have. Like you said, men have mental problems, and it really affected me becoming a father because I also had, childhood trauma that I held in that I didn't even realize was there until I became a father.
Yeah. Another question is,
sorry about that.
What is one thing you hope our children remember you and remember about you and remember, your life with them? Like, what is the one thing you hope that they always remember?
Man, that's a tough one. But to be honest, I just want them, when somebody asks them, hey, how was your father? I just want them, hopefully they said that he tried. Like, oh, my father always tried to do this, try to do that, be there for that. That's a very important thing because, like you said, I take that very serious to being a father. And I want them to always know that I tried my best to be a better father for them. That's all I want. I don't have to be perfect. I just want them to know or see that I tried.
That's great. And I know that they're gonna see it because you try so hard to work on your mental health now, and learning from the past and the way men were taught how to work on their mental health. So we have two boys, so I know that you are instilling different skills inside of them right now. What do you hope our sons learn about being a man and caring for their mental health? And what do you hope Selena learns about supporting her future husband someday?
Well, first things first, I tell baby Lewis, Angelo's different, because it's autism, but I always want them to tell him it's okay to open up to the world. It is okay to cry. It's okay to fail. It's okay to ask for help when you need it. Like I said, I was told to shut up and keep quiet, but I would never tell, our sons that. It's okay. It is okay to cry. It's okay to let it out. And thankfully, and I'm glad they experienced that and they know that. Lewis does boxing, and I tell him, let it all out. Cry. It is okay to fail sometimes. It's okay to make mistakes. You're not perfect. But I want them to know, open up. Don't hold it in. Selena, I hope she learns the importance of supporting and encouraging her husband emotionally, and she has you for that. And I hope she understands that men have struggles too, and that creating a safe space for honesty conversations can make a big difference. I want her to learn that if a man loves and respects her, she should allow him the opportunity to lead, communicate openly, and feel safe enough to share what is on his mind with her.
Oh, that's so great. I love that. Now, we're coming to the end of our segment. We're coming to the end of this podcast. I have one last question for you. When we first met, what did you think love was? And what does love mean to you now today? And how do you feel about your mental health right now? And is there anything that you would want to work on to make sure that your mental health as a man is okay? Is there anything that you're telling yourself? So the first question is, when we first met, what did you think love was? What do you think love is now? And how can you, put it towards your mental health going forward in your life as a man?
Wow, that's deep. But to answer your question the best way I can, it was when we first met, I honestly did not know what love was. I don't think none of us, both of us did, but love was just something people said to each other. I did not fully understand what it meant or even what is required in a relationship at that time. But today, love means something completely different. Love is the rain and the sunshine. Love is being willing to walk through the hardest seasons of our life with someone and still choose them. Uh, Love is willing to go through the pain, struggles, and challenges together so that people can grow and, come out stronger on the other side. You know, Long story short, love is willing to walk into the darkest place and fight your way back together. Looking back, I think I allowed love to take the lead while ignoring my mental health. I focused so much on loving others that I pushed my own struggles aside instead of dealing with my thoughts and emotions. I tried to bury them, and now I realize that loving someone will also mean taking care of your own mental health so you can be the best husband, father, and person I can be.
Wow, that is so great. I'm so glad that you are on this podcast with me right now and you're able to just be open and just open and honest right now. And I'm just glad that you did this with me. So I just want to end this segment with thanking you so much for joining us today. My hopes in this conversation reminds you that healing begins when you're willing to talk about the things you've been carrying. A special thanks to you again, my beautiful husband. I love you.
I love you
For
too.
being
Thank you.
open and sharing your heart with everybody and the listeners and the viewers. If there's one thing I hope you take away from today's episode on this podcast is that your mental health matters. Whether you're a husband, wife, father, mother, son, or daughter, you don't have to carry your struggles alone. Thank you for listening to the Healing Room podcast with me, Angela Flores. Until next time, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and keep healing.